All right, exercise 8J. Let's jump straight to it. This first question, not Pythagorean theorem because I only have one given side. I don't know what this one is. It's not 30, 60, 90 or 45, 45, 90 because that doesn't say 30, 60 or 45. When it involves an angle, a side, and a side, that's going to be sine, cosine, and tangent. So how do we solve for this one? According to the angle, x is opposite. 37 is the hypotenuse, so that's going to be the sine of the angle equals the opposite over the hypotenuse, SOA. Make it a proportion. You either will cross multiply or switch to extremes. When the variable is on top, we will cross multiply. So x times 1 is x equals 37 times the sine of 48. Type that into your calculator. There's your answer. This guy, like the first question, I don't know what the second side is over here, or I don't have but one side over here. It involves an angle which is not 30 degrees or 45 degrees or 60 degrees, so sine, cosine, and tangent. X is opposite my angle. 28 is adjacent. The hypotenuse is this guy up here. I got the opposite and adjacent. That's tangent. The tangent of 31 equals x over 28. Cross multiply, x equals 28 times the tangent of 31. Cross multiply because the x is on the numerator. On this one, I can't use the Pythagorean theorem because x is an angle. Okay, I do have two sides, but it's not asking me for the third side, it's asking me for the angle. What involves the angle and two sides, that's sine, cosine, and tangent. Hypotenuse is here, opposite, adjacent, that's going to be the tangent. The tangent of x equals 15 over 20. When you're solving for the angle, that's when we use the arc tangent in this case. Second tangent, 15 over 20. 51.37 is our answer, 0.34. Okay, and this guy, I got to buy one, get one. I got two right triangles in one. This is not a right angle up here, so I can't use any geometric mean things with it. So what we need to do is solve for this shared side first. This angle measure, oh my goodness, it's one of our special numbers. 60 degrees. So this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. This is 40 is the hypotenuse. The shared side here is the short leg. Hypotenuse to short leg, divide by 2. This shared side is 20. Now I can focus on the triangle on the right. This angle here is 50. Opposite it is the 20 that we just found. X is the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is the sine of 50 equals the opposite side 20 over the hypotenuse x. In this case, my variable is on the denominator, so I should switch the extremes. Put the x over the 1, make the sine of 50 go down at the bottom, and that's what you type into your calculator, is this, 20 divided by the sine of 50. Number 5, this is not a 45-degree angle, therefore I need to use sine, cosine, and tangent. X is opposite. 25 is hypotenuse, that's the sine. I will cross multiply because my x is on the numerator. X times 1 is x. On this one, 65 degrees, hypotenuse adjacent, that's cosine. The cosine of the angle equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Switch the extremes because x is on the denominator to move it above the 1. X over 1 equals 10 divided by the cosine of 65. 23.66 is the answer. 7, 8, and 9. Okay, 7, 8, and 9. These are right triangle questions in word problem form. 2020 version here, people. We're not getting to it because of the coronavirus, but here's how it works. A support wire is attached to the top 150-meter radio tower. Well, that 150 meters goes straight up and forms a right angle with the ground. The wire, which is 190 meters, goes and attached to the ground. What is the angle the wire makes with the ground? It's just simply a right triangle question, just like we did above. X is my angle, 15 is the opposite, 190 is the hypotenuse, and we go use sine and solve for the angle. A woman is standing on top of a cliff. Okay, there she is at the ocean. She spots a raft. Her eye is level, eye level is 18 meters above sea level, so that 18 goes up there. This angle of depression, here's something we haven't talked about in 2020. This is where the angle of depression is, and it's horizontal is what happens from here and here, so it makes a alternate interior angles, a 7-degree angle down there as well. What is the distance from the raft to the base of the cliff? That's this distance down here. Here's the raft, the base of the cliff would be down here, so x is here. 7 degrees is my angle, 18 is the opposite, x is the adjacent. We use tangent to solve for that distance for x. Suppose the sun casts a shadow off of a 35-foot building. The shadow would be this thing down here. So how long is the shadow? X is going to go there, and it makes 60-degree angle. 60 degrees, we could use our special right triangles on this guy as well. But in this case, we would use tangent. The tangent of 60 degrees equals 35 over x. If you're going to go the other way, it would be, let's see, it would be 35 divided by the square root of 3 on your calculator. Excuse me, had a distraction there. X also equals 35 divided by the square root 3. If you typed that into your calculator, you'd get the exact same answer. Okay, next. This type of question, this is the mix of all sorts of things here. This is an equilateral triangle. All of those sides are 90, which are 9, which means all these angles are 60 degrees. This altitude makes a 30, 60, 90 triangle. We can use our 30, 60, 90 knowledge. This is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse to short leg, divide by 2, that's 4.5. Short leg to long leg, multiplied by the square root of 3. That's where that answer comes from. Number 11. This is a square. How do I know it's a square? Because all the sides are the same. It's a rhombus and is a right angle, rectangle, that makes it a square. That also makes these guys 45-degree angles. So now suddenly this 6 is the hypotenuse of a 45-90 triangle. 6 divided by the square root of 2, simplify, it gets 3 square root of 2. Number 12, 60-degree angle. To solve for x, I don't actually need any of this guy over here, because to solve for x, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle right there. I got to go from the short leg, I'm sorry, the long leg is what's given in my 30, 60, 90 triangle, opposite 66. So I go from 6 divided by the square root of 3 to calculate the short leg was 2 square root of 3. And then 2 square root of 3 times 2 will get me that hypotenuse is what x is. That's where the 4 square root of 3 comes from. All right, number 13. This is a right triangle, of course. I have 2 sides given. The unknown is a side. When you have 2 sides given and an unknown here, we use the Pythagorean theorem. There is no angle measures, not 30, 60, 90, or 45, 45, 9, or anything like that. Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus 8 squared equals 17 squared. Go solve. It's 15. We got a right triangle, of course, but looky there, there's 60 degrees. Because of the 60 degrees, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So now I can talk about this being a hypotenuse, the short leg, and the long leg. The long leg was given. To go from the long leg to the short leg, we divide by the square root of 3. Simplify and solve 3, or simplify, get 3 square root 3 for the short leg. Multiply by 2 to get the hypotenuse, 6 square root 3. This guy is a 43-degree angle. I only have one side given, no Pythagorean theorem. Can't use 45, 45, 90, so this is sine, cosine, and tangent. So here, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse from the perspective of 43. I'm given the adjacent and hypotenuse. That's cosine of 43 equals x over 12. Cross multiply, because x is on the numerator. X times 1 is x. Next. This 10 right here is not really helpful at all, because this is not a, because we don't know that this is an isosceles triangle, you cannot say that that's 5 and 5 right there. That's a decoy, potentially steering you in the wrong direction. What we have here is this right triangle I've just highlighted in yellow. 67 degrees is my angle. Opposite of 67 is 12. The hypotenuse of my right triangle is x. Opposite hypotenuse, that's sine. So the sine of 67 is 12 over x. Switch the extremes because the x is on the numerator. X over 1 is x equals 12 divided by the sine of 67. Type in your calculator. We're good to go. Number 17. all three sides are given. We're trying to solve for the angle. When you're trying to solve for the angle in a right triangle, you will use sine, cosine, and tangent, the arc sine, the arc cosine, the arc tangent. You get to choose which ones you're going to use. I would avoid the square root of 85 because 2 and 9 are those integers. Those are nice. So from the perspective of x, 9 is adjacent, 2 is opposite, square root of 85 is hypotenuse. I'm going to use the 2 and the 9. Tangent of x equals 2 over 9. If you use the square root of 85, you can. Just be careful when you type that in your calculator. If you don't do it correctly, you won't get the right answer. This final one is a geometric mean question. You know that because there's a right angle here and the altitude, the right angle there. The things that are the geometric mean are the legs of the big right triangle and the altitude. Well, this question gives us the leg here is 8. The parts of the leg that it's closest to, that it shares a triangle with, is x, the little triangle here, and 20, the big triangle. So 8 is the geometric mean. Most of the time we've been solving for have the variable here, but here 8 is the geometric mean between x and 20. Cross multiply and solve. Sorry for my scribble there. Let me fix that very quickly. There, when you cross multiply, we get 20x equals 64. Divide by 20, 3.2 is x. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know what questions you have.